Hello YouTubers, how you doing? Today we're doing a video about Jack the Ripper, serial killer of 1888 in England. Now I've read many books about Jack the Ripper, and I have a pretty good idea who Jack the Ripper was. Now this first book I read was about Walter Zickert, a fine artist in London, England. Now there's evidence pointing towards Walter. DNA. Now Walter Zickert used to taunt the police and write them letters and say nasty things to get the police all angry and mad. Number one, Walter Zickert didn't like cops, and he didn't like the police to begin with. Now, in the DNA of the envelopes of Walter Zickert, he's linked to the DNA on the clothing of the 5 women that were killed. The DNA evidence is true. Walter Zickert was at the crimes because his DNA was found on the clothing of the women he killed. Walter Zickert killed 5 women as Jack the Ripper back in 1888. Walter Zickert had a mental sickness. He was a sociopath. He was a sociopath, but a dangerous one who had no conscience. Now we all know Jack the Ripper, the killer, had no conscience. We also know it had to be somebody that was popular or famous that could walk the streets of London and not be considered a suspect that would kill women. Walter Zickert was a famous fine artist and of a privileged background. Now here's the things that make Walter Zickert a good suspect for Jack the Ripper. Okay, number one, his DNA was found on the clothing of the women he killed. And that's good evidence. It was also found on the envelopes that he taunted the police with on the stamps. The DNA of Walter Zickert was on those stamps. So we got 2 links right off the bat. We got Walter Zickert's DNA on the women's clothing, that's number 1. Number 2, we got his DNA on the stamps. That has been examined and researched to be the truth. Walter Zickert also used to go to the bars regularly where all these women were killed. Now Walter Zickert used to pick up women for a one-night stand, and a lot of them were prostitutes. Now I think personally Walter Zickert killed more than 5 women like Jack the Ripper did. I think Walter Zickert might have killed 10, 15, maybe 20. But there's only enough proof and evidence for 5 killings. Now Walter Zickert was a famous fine artist. He used to go to the bars every night and drink, pick up women. I think what happened is he picked up some women and he murdered them. He stabbed them to death, butchered them to death with sharp knives. And the other thing about Walter Zickert, which a lot of people don't know, but I do know, he hated women. He hated women in general. He looked at all women as parasites and a curse. Walter Zickert did not like women. Now, the reason he didn't like women, there's a couple reasons behind that, and I'll go into detail. Number 1, Walter Zickert was inadequate. His body was inadequate. He had a small penis that was deformed. He had a physical condition where he felt inadequate. Most normal people like me that have a normal body feel adequate. Walter Zickert did not feel like he felt like a man should feel. So, him being ashamed of his body, Walter Zickert, and women poking fun at his physical handicaps, if you will. He hated women, and he hated them to the extent where he would kill them. And he did kill them. They know for sure that 5 victims were from Jack the Ripper. But like I said before, I think it's more like 10 or 15 victims. There's people that haven't been identified that I think Walter Zickert killed. Now, Walter Zickert had a deep hatred for women because they used to look down on him and call him names and were very cruel and mean to him. So he said, okay, you want to be like that? I'll get you back. So in the dark of night, he would sneak up and stab them to death, cut out their organs like their kidneys and their vagina and so on and so forth. He disemboweled some of them, and I think that Walter Zickert was Jack the Ripper for several reasons. Number one, the evidence is there. The DNA is there first. That's on the women's clothing and on the stamps of the envelopes. There's 2 connections right there. This has been tested and examined. Thirdly, he hated women. Keep that in mind. He did not like women. Women would always belittle him, call him crazy and different names, and physically his appearance, they looked down on him. So he had a deep hatred for women. Personally, I think Walter Zickert killed between 10 to 15 women, more than the 5 that they had evidence for. Walter Zickert taunted the police with cartoons. I'll tell you the thing you don't know about Walter Zickert. He was a fine artist, but he also used to draw cartoons and send them to the police and taunt the police. He also used to taunt the police with letters and bad jokes, bad humor, if you will. Number one, Walter Zickert didn't like cops or police or authorities. So I think more likely the police or the authorities probably belittled him too and might have done bad things to him for Walter Zickert to hate the police and the cops. More than likely. You know something? Cops are not all good. For every police force in the world, I'm going to say half the cops are good and the other half are bad. And I see it in all police departments around here in the valley in Nova Scotia. You ever hear that old saying? Good cop, bad cop, good cop, bad cop. That's true. That's true. Most of the citizens are better than some of the police officers that serve us and protect us. Keep that in your mind. That's true. Anyhow, Walter Zickert was a great, fine artist. His paintings today are in the London museums and over in France. They're in museums. But if I had to identify Jack the Ripper, now I'm not just shooting off at the hip. I've read many books on the subject. I've read about 10 Jack the Ripper books. And I've looked at all the suspects. I've analyzed them, studied them, and looked to see if they hated women. I looked into a lot of things. Walter Zickert was a suspect that hated women. And the DNA evidence is in his corner. Evidence that proves it's Walter Zickert. So I'm going to tell you today, Jack the Ripper is Walter Zickert, a fine artist from England, London. Now, Walter Zickert had deformities as a child. He had surgeries that left him deformed in the lower private parts of the body. He always felt inadequate, and women would run him down on his physical appearance. Walter Zickert hated women. He thought they were parasites, and most of them were devils, to be honest. But what made it kind of interesting to me, he used to taunt the police all the time with cartoons and letters saying, "You'll never catch me, you'll never get me, catch me if you can," comments like that. And the thing is, if you look into the writings of Walter Zickerin, there's evidence there that points to him being Jack the Ripper. He did cartoons of Jack the Ripper, and he did cartoons of horror things that only Jack the Ripper would think of. The other thing I noticed about the Walter Zickerin drawings, most of his drawings, there was knives, lots of sharp knives in his drawings that pointed to somebody that loved knives. What did Jack the Ripper kill with all the time? Sharp knives, surgical knives. I don't think Jack the Ripper was no butcher. He was an artist, and that's Walter Zickerin, the fine artist of London, England. Now, before you say I'm wrong, you read all the books I read about Jack the Ripper, and you'll get a different tune. And that tune is Walter Zickerin is Jack the Ripper. I read 10 books about Jack the Ripper. I looked at all the suspects, and that's the one there's more evidence on than the others. Please subscribe to the Dennis Ramsay YouTube channel. Y'all take care and have a nice day. Bye for now, and have a good day, and subscribe and share.